We will do it.
Hi, middle school.
Hi, everybody.
Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a good week this week. I know for some of you, it was your last week of school, so congratulations.
Good job. High five.
Woohoo! I'm sure you finished strong. Hopefully you had a good celebration, whether it be a drive-by, the way that your teachers, that's what our school did, or dropping things off at school to see your teacher. Hopefully you had a good celebration.
All right, so this week is part 3 of our series on being popular. And today's bottom line is Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story.
Nope, that's right. And also in this series this week, we're going to be talking about embarrassing moments. You know, like Andy, that time where we were recording our Sabbath school session on Zoom and we were wearing silly wigs. That was pretty embarrassing, right? In all seriousness, Andy, do you remember a time in middle school where you were just totally embarrassed?
Yes, absolutely. There was one time when the teacher passed out what I thought was an assignment, and it was a list of a whole bunch of tasks that you had to do. And me being the nerdy kid, I tried to be the first one to finish. So the very first line, it says, read the whole thing before you do anything. But I kind of skimmed over that and I started jumping into the tasks. So one of them was to stand up and talk about your favorite dessert, and then you had to make silly noises and all this stuff. And I'm racing through this list and I'm the only one making these sounds and nobody else is doing it. Well, I get to the bottom of the list and it says, okay, now that you've read everything, just write your name at the top and sit quietly at your desk.
So
I was the only one that didn't actually read the instructions.
You were too focused and didn't pay attention to your surroundings, huh?
I tripped up myself. How about you, Lisa? Did you have any embarrassing moments during school?
Well, there was this one time I was in PE and we were in the track field on the dirt, and we had to race each other, and there was like 5 of us lined up at the starting line, and then the rest of the class was watching. And the PE teacher said, all right, on your marks, get set, go. And so we all took off. And for me, I was a pretty fast runner. I was, my legs were short, but I was really into this and I wanted to get out there and get a good start on my run. And my body was ahead of my legs. And so I just ate it. I ate the dirt and everybody took off and I was pretty embarrassed.
Ouch. Ouch.
All right. Well, in all seriousness, we're going to be watching the video, guys. And we'll see you on the other side.
Hey Siri, where's the nearest Chick-fil-A? She never works. Anyway, hey guys, my name is Lauren and I am so excited to be here with you today. But before we get started, I have a story that I want to share with you. It's an embarrassing story from middle school, and it happened in PE class, where every good embarrassing middle school story takes place. You see, we were playing soccer in PE one day, and I am not athletic at all. I was actually the last to be picked for a team, so while we're playing soccer, I'm just kind of jogging back and forth, trying to look busy, but also staying far away from the action of the game. When all of a sudden, I'm in my own little world, just jogging up and down the field, and I look up and I see this shadow coming towards my face. And I'm thinking, gosh, I hope that's a bird. But immediately I realize it's not, it's the soccer ball heading straight for my face, and it makes contact with this side of my face, hits me so hard that I spin and fall to the ground. In that moment, I had a decision. I could either lay down and cry, which is what I wanted to do, or I could pop back up, pretend I'm chill and groovy and that didn't hurt at all, and everyone can laugh and we can just have a good moment. And I went with the second option. So I popped back up, I'm like, that was hilarious, guys. On the inside, I'm sobbing, but all my friends are laughing, it's hilarious, we're all having a fun moment together. And later on, I spend a lot of time putting makeup on a bruise on the side of my face. I think we can all agree that sometimes embarrassing moments can be really funny from the outside. Like when someone falls down in public or says the wrong word during a speech or trips in front of a room full of people or gets hit in the face with a soccer ball. We just can't help it. Something about that stuff can just be so funny. Well, that is unless it's happening to us, right? If someone else is known as the kid who fell down the stairs in front of school, it's funny. But when we're the one falling down the stairs, not so funny. You see, after I got hit in the face with a soccer ball in PE class, it kind of followed me everywhere. It kind of became what I was known for, which was a bummer because I have a lot to offer. But everyone was just talking about that one time I got hit in the face with a soccer ball. Lauren, remember that one time you got hit in the face with a soccer ball? Yes, I do, Shannon. I do remember that, and it's not funny, but I guess we'll pretend it's funny. Oh my gosh, it was like so funny. Listen, it followed me for years. But I guess if you were watching, it probably was kind of funny. Isn't it funny the way that works? You do one thing one time in your life, and suddenly that becomes the thing you're known for at school, on your team, at church, just about everywhere you go. It shapes people's opinions of you. In a way, our ability to influence other people works the same. Remember, influence is the ability to have an effect on someone else, to impact things like their behavior, or thoughts, or choices. While we have a tendency to believe that something like influence is reserved for the people who are known, or popular, or kind of a big deal, the reality is we all have the potential to influence other people, for better or for worse. Because of that, we all have the same potential to lose that influence. Maybe you know someone right now who used to have a lot of influence. They were known for being friendly and funny and a person who tried to make good choices, but then they got caught drinking at that party, or cheating on that test, or spreading that nasty rumor about a friend. Just like that, their influence was gone. Now, instead of being known for all the good things they've done, they're simply known for the one big bad decision they made. Maybe you know this is true because it's happened to you. You were the kid who showed up every week to church, who always got straight A's, who had lots of friends, or who was a leader on your team. But one bad decision, one moment, one choice, one experience, and suddenly your reputation changed. Now people look at you and only see that bad decision, and because of that, you feel like you can't show up at church, or at school, or on the team, or even with your friends. But here's the deal. Those big decisions, those things we do that are open and obviously not good choices, they definitely have the power to cost us our influence. But you know what else does? The small, more secret things we do that don't seem like that big of a deal at the time. The harsh way you speak to your siblings, the way you yell at your teammates in the locker room, the secrets you share about your friends when they aren't around, the guy you're dating who you know isn't good for you, the way you look down on or judge the people in your small group, all those little things can add up over time. The more you do them, the more likely you are to become known as someone who does them. And the more likely you are to lose the influence you have over the people around you. When we put it this way, it sounds like a real bummer, doesn't it? You make bad choices, big or small, and just like that, your influence is gone. Your ability to be anyone other than a person who makes bad choices is over. You're stuck, and you'll never be able to get things back the way they used to be. Well, here's the good news. All that may feel like it's true, but trust me when I tell you that it isn't. No matter who you are, what you've done, or how you feel like it's impacted the way people see you and your ability to influence others, there is a way for things to be different. There is a way to find the influence you think is lost forever. I know this is true because I've seen it happen. In my own life, sure, but also in the life of one of the most important people in the history of the Christian faith, a guy named Peter. Now, Peter was one of Jesus' 12 disciples. The disciples were a group of guys who followed Jesus, learned from him, and lived life closely with him during his ministry on earth. But Peter wasn't just any disciple. He actually was one of the 3 men who had the closest relationship with Jesus. He was one of Jesus' most trusted friends. Peter loved Jesus. And when Jesus left earth after his death and resurrection, Peter became one of the men who carried his message and spread Christianity around the world as a leader in the early church. When Christians talk about Peter now, they talk about all the amazing things he did to grow the church and see more and more people believe in Jesus. They talk about what a big and bold and amazing faith he had. They talk about his influence. But here's what's interesting. Peter wasn't always that guy. Luke, one of Jesus' other disciples, wrote down a story in his account of Jesus' life on earth, the book of the Bible we know as Luke, and shows us a different side of Peter. This amazing leader with so much influence in the church? Well, at one point, he did something so bad that he almost lost it all. Where we pick up the story, Jesus had just been arrested and was about to be put on trial for his life. This was the beginning of the end for Jesus, or at least that's what everybody thought. And because they followed Jesus so closely, the disciples were afraid that this was the beginning of the end for them too. If Jesus had just been arrested and had his life on the line, wouldn't the same be true for the people closest to him? As all of this unfolded, Peter followed Jesus to find out where he'd been taken. But because he was afraid for his own life, Peter also hid himself amongst the crowd, trying to blend in so that he wouldn't get noticed as a follower and friend of Jesus. Here's what happened. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know him," he said. Do you catch what Peter did here? One of the most trusted friends, loyal followers, and closest servants of Jesus just straight up lied about being any of those things. He denied even knowing Jesus at all. This is like your best friend, your BFF, who knows all your secrets, is first on your Snapchat list, and is the number one person on your group text, completely and totally dropping you in front of everybody. That's terrible, right? I don't know about you, but that's certainly not the way I would think one of the most influential leaders in the Christian faith would act. Shouldn't a guy who's so important in the history of the church be a guy who stood up for what he believed in and used his influence for good no matter what? Let me just stop here and let you know that this story goes from bad to worse. 2 more people came up to Peter in the crowd and asked him if he knew Jesus. And 2 more times, Peter denied knowing him. Right then and there. You'd think the potential for Peter to ever have any influence as a Christian would be lost. I mean, he denied even knowing the guy who all the Christian faith centers on. How could somebody who does that ever gain back the influence they've lost? Well, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Did Peter mess up here? Big time. Did he feel awful about it? Yes. Luke went on to tell us that Peter went outside and wept over what he'd done. He knew just how big and bad and costly those lies were, not just to his influence, but also to his relationship with Jesus. But that's the thing about Jesus. He doesn't see our mistakes the same way we do. He knows our sins are forgiven, and when we come to him honestly, he offers us the forgiveness we need to start over. Then we can begin gaining back the influence we thought was gone for good. That's exactly what he did for his pal Peter. As you probably know, this story didn't seem like it ended all that well the first time. Jesus was killed, and his followers, Peter included, didn't really know what to do next. They were afraid and unsure and so very lost without their leader. But then, 3 days later, Jesus rose back from the dead. He came back to life, which is pretty amazing. And one of the first things he did was find his friends and followers, including Peter. In another account of Jesus' life on earth, the book of John, we find out what Jesus said to Peter when they were reunited. Take a look. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." With his very first question, Jesus was giving Peter a chance to change the story, to right the wrong, to be more than his mistakes, to gain back his influence. And this time around, Peter got it right. 3 times, Jesus asked Peter if he loved him. And 3 times, Peter confirmed his love for Jesus. He said one, "I love you," for every time he had denied Jesus. And Jesus' response? Well, it wasn't a call to take care of his actual sheep, because that would be weird. It was a command to take care of the people who will follow him. In the same way sheep follow a shepherd as their leader, believers in Jesus follow him. So by asking Peter to feed his lambs, Jesus was asking Peter to take care of his followers. He was asking Peter to tap back into the influence and use it to change the world through the message of Jesus. Jesus saw Peter as so much more than just his mistakes. And the good news is that he sees us in the very same way. No matter what we've done in the past, we have permission to love and follow Jesus right here in the present. Our mistakes and sins have been paid for. We can ask God for the forgiveness Jesus bought for us. And because we're forgiven, we can move forward on a new path step by step, gaining back the influence that we may feel like we've lost. Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. Just like Peter, you can receive grace and forgiveness. How your story has gone before doesn't have to be the way it goes in the future. You can take a step toward Jesus and a step toward regaining some of the influence you feel like you've lost. To start, I want you to do 3 things. First, ask yourself what may be causing you to lose influence. Take a minute to think about the choices you might be making, big or small, that are impacting your ability to influence others for good. Is it the guy you're dating? The things you post on social media? The way you speak to kids in your class? Your attitude on the field? The friends you hung out with last week? The secret behaviors you think nobody knows about? Whatever it is, acknowledge what big or small choices might be chipping away at your influence. Next, confess it to God. Be honest with God about it all. Tell Him what you're struggling through and ask for His help to overcome it. Ask for His forgiveness and believe that you've received it. Let that moment be the first step in rewriting the story of your influence. Finally, take the first step in the right direction. Take one small step toward gaining back influence you think might be lost. Maybe that means apologizing to someone you've wronged, or putting up boundaries in a relationship, or changing the way you talk to other people, or asking your small group leader to help you stay on the right path. Take one small step this week in the right direction, and next week, take another. Those small steps over time will lead to bigger and better influence in the long run. Remember, Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story. As you head out, think about this. What's one thing in my life that may be causing me to lose influence?
Hi again. So after watching the video, we want you to remember there are steps you can take to gain back any influence that you feel you may have lost. And to remember it's never too late to take those steps. And remember, they told you the 3 steps you could take. Ask yourself what may be causing you to lose the influence, confess it to God, and take one step, even if it's a tiny step, in the right direction.
At the end of the video, they left you with a question. What is one thing in my life that may be causing me to lose influence? Another question that we wanted you to consider
is, how does it make you feel to know that Jesus doesn't allow our mistakes to be the end of our story?
So at this time, I'd like for you to try something. I'd like for you to go ahead and get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and I would want you to try to write a letter of encouragement to yourself. After you write the letter, I want you to put this in a safe place and take it out if you ever make a mistake or do something that causes you to lose influence. Some things that you might want to include on there in the letter are that Jesus doesn't see this mistakes the way that we do, and our sins are forgiven when we come to Him with an open heart. Jesus sees us as more than our mistakes.
Because we're forgiven by Jesus, we can move forward step by step. And how our story has gone in the past doesn't have to be the way it goes in the future.
All right, so this is the end of our lesson for this week. We hope that you have a safe and fun Memorial weekend. And above all, please be careful out there.
Hi, guys.
Take care, and we'll see you next week.
We love you.
Bye-bye.